Moscow in winter was cruel and beautiful. The snow whispered over cobblestones, softening the sharp edges of a city built on power, secrets, and silken cruelty. Beneath the delicate layer of frost, everything pulsed with tension, and tonight, so did Mila Volkova. Inside Vulk, her intimate, high-concept bistro hidden behind a nondescript door in Kitaygorod, the warmth wrapped around her like second skin. Her kitchen smelled of roasted bone marrow, saffron butter, and fire-charred citrus. The hum of quiet conversation and gentle jazz from an old record player masked the storm growing behind her eyes. She moved with purpose, graceful but commanding. Her dark curls were pinned in a messy twist. Her chef's coat hugged her waist just right. Her fingers, nimble and scarred, curled around the rim of a gleaming white plate as she added the final elements to a dish that practically throbbed with sensual energy. Pan-seared duck breast with smoked cherry glaze and a wild mushroom foam, balanced by a dash of balsamic caviar. "Chef," her sous called out. "Table 9 requested to see you. The woman said she's a fan." Mila frowned. Her regulars respected the boundary between artistry and performance. She hated being gawked at like some flamboyant kitchen monkey. "What woman?" "The tall one. Silver hair, fur coat, eyes like—" "Steel?" Mila interrupted. The hairs on her neck prickled. Slowly she turned toward the thin opening between the velvet curtains that led to the dining room. And there she was, Ekaterina Orlova, a name that echoed through Russia's elite circles with reverence and fear. A widow who'd inherited her husband's business empire and then multiplied it ruthlessly. Owner of half the city's hotels, silent investor in countless ventures, rumored to have politicians in her pocket, untouchable. And tonight, she was at Mila's restaurant, unannounced, alone, watching her like a panther poised for a slow, lethal pounce. Mila's heartbeat stuttered. Ekaterina sat back in her seat, legs crossed beneath a floor-length sable coat. Her silk blouse was the color of dried blood. A single emerald pendant rested at her throat. Her hair was pulled into a sleek chignon, silver strands catching the low golden light like moonlight over ice. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world narrowed. Ekaterina didn't smile. She simply tilted her head as if assessing a fine wine or a rare, defiant animal. Mila turned away sharply, pulse hammering. "What the hell is she doing here?" she muttered, storming into her office. On her desk lay a freshly signed shareholder document. The words blurred, but the name stood out like a red slash across her life. Ekaterina Orlova, 20% ownership stake in Vulk. Her partner Sergei had sold his shares, quietly, behind her back. Ekaterina had moved faster than Mila realized. She hadn't just invaded her restaurant, she'd claimed a piece of it. Mila slammed the folder shut and marched back into the kitchen. Her fingers trembled as she plated the next order. She'd take it to the table herself. Ekaterina didn't flinch as Mila approached. She simply set down her wine glass and looked up like a queen expecting tribute. Mila placed the dish in front of her with deliberate calm. "I didn't know shareholders required reservations," she said coolly. Ekaterina's lips curved faintly. "I find ownership more satisfying when it comes with flavor." She picked up a fork, sliced into the duck, and took a bite. Her lashes fluttered closed. A soft hum escaped her throat. "Delicious," she whispered. "So bold, so unapologetic, like the woman who made it." "Flattery won't make me compliant." "Oh, Mila Moya," Ekaterina said, swirling her wine. "I don't want compliance, I want chemistry." Mila's face flushed, whether from rage or something else she didn't know. You bought your way into my restaurant. What do you want now, me? The air thickened. Ekaterina leaned forward, her voice like silk soaked in vodka. Not yet, but I am intrigued by what hunger can make a woman do. Mila's skin buzzed. She hated that her body reacted, hated that her thighs clenched beneath her apron. Ekaterina picked up her wine and dismissed her with a smirk. Run along, chef. We'll talk when the kitchen cools down. Back in the kitchen, Mila gripped the counter until her knuckles whitened. She had faced food critics, arrogant patrons, even the silent threat of mafia extortionists. But this woman, this snake in silk, she terrified her. And worse, she fascinated her. Mila Volkova was used to being watched in her kitchen. Critics, foodies, culinary students, eyes followed her movements with admiration or envy. But Ekaterina Orlova's gaze was something else entirely. It wasn't admiration. It was possession, waiting for permission. For 3 nights in a row, she came back, always alone, always seated at the far right corner table where she could see straight into the open kitchen through the glass panel. A glass of blood-red Amarone in hand. Her eyes never left Mila. It unnerved her, excited her. She didn't want to admit it. Mila slammed a tray of lamb chops onto the prep table, startling the young pastry chef. Sorry, she muttered, wiping her hands. She's back again, her Sue whispered, nodding toward the front. Same table. That's 4 nights now. Mila refused to look. She thinks she can wear me down, she growled, like I'm some spoiled vintage she can sip until it goes sweet. But part of her wanted to know. Would Ekaterina keep coming? Would she stop if Mila gave her nothing? Would Mila miss it? That night, after service ended, she slipped into her tiny, dimly lit office. The door barely shut before her phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. You move like a fighter, but cook like a seductress. A contradiction I'd like to unravel. E. Mila's heart thudded. She tossed the phone on the desk like it had burned her fingers. This woman wasn't playing a game. She was the game. The next afternoon, Mila was wiping down the bar when the door opened and a familiar voice drifted through the quiet bistro. Well, well, still smells like rosemary and defiance in here. Alexei Makarov. Tall, lean, exuding the smug charm of someone who was too attractive for his own good. A well-known culinary critic with a popular YouTube series. He and Mila had a brief, fiery affair 2 years ago. Too hot to last, too stubborn to work. He never quite let go. He leaned across the bar with that wicked grin. You look good, Krolik moja. I look the same. Exactly. He glanced toward the empty dining room. Heard the rumors. The Ice Queen herself has invested in you. She didn't invest. She invaded, he chuckled. And you let her. Mila didn't answer. She didn't have one. Be careful, he said softly. That woman eats people like you for breakfast. You burn bright, Mila. She'll want to own your flame. Something twisted in her gut. Not fear, not shame, arousal. That night, Ekaterina returned. This time, Mila didn't ignore her. She walked straight to her table, still in her chef's coat, hands stained from red wine glaze and beetroot puree. Ekaterina's smile curved slowly. Ah, the dragon emerges. Why are you here every night? Mila snapped. Because you cook with desire, and you glare like a woman who wants to be touched, but refuses to ask. Mila's jaw clenched. Ekaterina leaned in. Tell me, Mila, Do you like being watched? By someone who tries to own me? No, Ekaterina's voice dropped. What if I don't want to own you? Then what? I want to corrupt you. Mila's lips parted. Her throat was dry, but her voice stayed steady. You'll have to do better than poetry, Orlova. Ekaterina smiled like she already planned to. 3 nights later, Mila agreed to a drink after service. They met at Domna Neberezhny, Ekaterina's luxury penthouse facing the frozen Moskva River. The marble floors glowed gold beneath dim lights. Mila stood in her leather coat, boots damp from the snow, feeling wildly out of place. Ekaterina poured vodka into crystal glasses, slid one across. To hunger, she said. To self-control, Mila replied. They clinked. Ekaterina walked behind her, circling her like a predator would circle a lover. She brushed Mila's coat off her shoulders. Do you always flinch when someone gets close? She whispered. Only when I want them to. Good, Ekaterina said, her breath against Mila's neck. Because I want you to fight me. Mila spun, fire in her eyes, lips nearly grazing Ekaterina's. Then you'll have to earn my surrender. For one tense moment, nothing moved between them but breath. Then Mila stepped back, but not tonight, and she left, heart pounding, wet between her thighs, teeth clenched in restraint. Mila didn't sleep well after the night at Ekaterina's penthouse. She lay in bed for hours, staring at the ceiling of her sparse flat, her skin still buzzing from where Ekaterina had stood behind her, close enough to kiss, close enough to claim. She kept replaying the whispered line in her mind, I want you to fight me. It wasn't flirtation, it was challenge, seduction cloaked in power, dipped in danger, and she had walked away. But why did it feel like Ekaterina let her? The next evening, Mila threw herself into prep. Her hands moved fast, chopping shallots, searing foie gras, tossing bitter greens. She needed motion, movement, anything to silence the thoughts that kept pulling her back to her. Then Alexei showed up again, dressed casually but deliberately, black turtleneck, wool coat, beard just trimmed. He leaned over the counter like he belonged there, like he still had pieces of her stashed under his shirt. You're tense, he said. I'm busy. You're glowing. I'm sweating. Same thing, Mila Moya. She shot him a glare. Don't call me that. You only mind when someone else is calling you worse behind your back, he smirked. Like pet chef or flame in Ekaterina's crystal cage. Mila dropped the knife with a clang. What? Words out, he said, sliding into a stool. Photos of you two outside her penthouse? That's fuel. People are talking. Let them. Are you sure? Because if she claims you, she won't do it quietly. Mila didn't answer. Her eyes flicked toward the dining room and froze. Ekaterina. Already there. Her coat draped over the chair, silk blouse unbuttoned just enough. Her red lips curved in subtle amusement. She was watching Alexei. Watching them. Mila didn't go to her table tonight. She couldn't. Instead, she worked faster, harder, like she could sweat out the tension between her thighs, the ghost of Ekaterina's breath behind her ear. After service, Mila headed out the back door. She needed air. But the alley wasn't empty. Ekaterina stood there, smoking under the flickering glow of a hanging light. Her silver hair caught the dim yellow hue like burnished steel. You let him touch you, she said quietly, eyes never leaving Mila. He didn't, he wanted to. You didn't stop it fast enough. Mila stepped closer, arms crossed, voice low. You don't own me, Ekaterina. Not yet. A slow drag of the cigarette. But don't insult me by pretending I can't see what's mine. Mila's breath hitched. Is this how you get what you want? She asked. By marking territory? No, that's how men do it. Ekaterina took a step forward. Their bodies barely brushed. Mila's spine hit the brick wall. I don't mark, I devour. The world went still. Snowflakes landed on Mila's lashes. Her breath clouded between them. Ekaterina's hand came up, not to touch, but to hover, trembling with restraint. Her fingers ghosted over Mila's jaw. "Do you want me to kiss you, Mila?" she murmured. Mila's lips parted, but she didn't speak. "Then tell me not to." Mila's heart pounded. Her throat closed. She couldn't say it. "That's what I thought," Ekaterina whispered. But she didn't kiss her. She turned, walked away, heels clicking against the frost-covered stone. Later that night, Mila stood naked in the shower, forehead pressed against the tile, fingers between her legs. She came with a cry, Ekaterina's name caught between her teeth. The next day, a courier delivered a dinner invitation. "You've stirred my appetite. Come cook for me again. But this time, in my private villa. Come hungry." Inside the envelope was a key, and a note beneath it, "Wear something that peels easily." The ride to Katerina's private villa outside Moscow was long, silent, and unnerving. Mila sat in the back of the black Maybach, snow swirling outside the windows like whispered warnings. The driver said nothing. The interior smelled faintly of leather and violets. The envelope sat heavy in her lap. Inside was the key, and the note, "Wear something that peels easily." She'd chosen carefully: black wrap dress, no bra, silk panties, a touch of lipstick and nothing else. Her coat wrapped tightly around her. Beneath it, naked vulnerability cloaked in satin and nerve. The car turned down a snow-covered road, leading to a sprawling, high-walled estate, shrouded in shadows. The lights were low. The air felt thick with something unspoken. Mila stepped out into the cold, her boots crunching in the snow, her breath hitched in clouds. The front door opened before she could knock. Ekaterina stood in the foyer. She wore a deep emerald velvet robe that draped over her like liquid seduction. Her silver hair was down tonight, wild, soft, and intimate. A glass of wine rested in her hand. No jewelry, no makeup, just her, raw, undeniable. "Come in," she said. "You're late." "Traffic," Mila said, stepping in. "Excuses," Ekaterina murmured, shutting the door behind her. "Take off your coat," Mila hesitated, then slowly peeled it off. The silk dress shimmered in the warm light. Ekaterina's eyes traveled down her body, leisurely, luxuriously. "Good girl." Mila's breath caught, a heat pooling low in her belly at those two quiet words. Ekaterina led her into the living room. Everything was wood, stone, and shadow. A low fire burned in the hearth. On the coffee table, a single dish, a tasting portion of oysters, topped with saffron cream and glistening caviar. "For you," Ekaterina said. "You cooked?" "No, I had it made. I'm good with power, not with flame." Mila sat slowly, legs crossing. Ekaterina moved behind her, pouring wine, fingers brushing her shoulder, just enough to spark a tremble. "You've been fighting me for days," Ekaterina said, standing close behind her chair. "So tonight, I'm going to give you a choice." She leaned down, lips at Mila's ear. "Stay and let me take control, or leave now and never taste me again." Mila said nothing. She reached for the oyster, tipped it back slowly, swallowed. "I'm not afraid of hunger," Mila whispered, "but you'll find I bite back." Ekaterina smiled. "Then stand up." Mila did. The older woman stepped around her, eyes burning with intent. She took the tie of the dress between her fingers and pulled. The silk fell away. Mila stood, half naked in firelight, her nipples already hard, her skin flushed. "No bra," Ekaterina murmured, dragging a finger over the curve of her breast. "You obey well." "I don't obey," Mila said, breath hitching. "I tempt." Ekaterina's lips curved. "On your knees." Mila hesitated, then slowly dropped. The plush carpet pressed against her skin. She looked up, daring, defiant. Ekaterina took her chin in hand. "You'll learn," she said softly, "that surrender isn't weakness, it's art." What followed was an unraveling. Ekaterina blindfolded her with a silk sash, laid her on the soft velvet chaise, cuffed her wrists in leather, not tight, just enough to remind her, "You're not in control tonight." She whispered in Russian, her voice liquid fire, brushing fingers over Mila's stomach, down her thighs. She teased, coaxed, kissed every inch of exposed skin. And then, ice. An ice cube, trailing down Mila's breast, circling her nipple. She gasped. Then heat, Ekaterina's mouth, replacing the chill, sucking, biting, soothing. Mila arched, moaned, trembled. And still, Ekaterina hadn't undressed. "You'll come for me," she whispered, slipping a gloved hand between Mila's thighs. "But you won't touch me, not yet." Her fingers moved slow, expert, torturous. She brought Mila to the edge, again and again, never letting her fall. Mila whimpered, pleaded. "Tell me what you want," Ekaterina purred. "Please, I want to. Come?" A smile in her voice, then beg. Mila had never begged before. But she did. "Please, Ekaterina, let me come. Please." That was enough. She slid 2 fingers inside, curling, her thumbs circling that sweet, aching spot until Mila shattered with a cry. Hips bucking, tears slipping from under the blindfold. Ekaterina kissed her open mouth, tongue claiming the last of her defiance. Later, Mila lay curled in silk sheets, Ekaterina beside her, still fully dressed, brushing fingers through her damp hair. "You've been devoured," she said softly, "and yet you look more powerful now than you ever have." Mila turned to her, lips swollen, eyes heavy. "Because I chose it." Mila returned to Vulk the next morning with bruised thighs, sore lips, and a secret still echoing between her legs. Ekaterina had left early, as always, with a handwritten note by the bed. "Don't let the heat fade. I'll see you soon. E." It was unsigned, but unmistakable. Mila pressed it to her lips, inhaled the faint scent of violet and smoke. Then, as always, she folded it carefully and locked it away. She didn't know what they were becoming. She only knew that when she wasn't around Ekaterina, the world felt dull, bland, like food without salt. And yet, Alexei still lingered, an old flame with too much memory and not enough fire. He was waiting by the prep station when she arrived. "Busy night?" he asked casually. "What do you want, Alexei?" "To check on you. You look..." He stepped closer, eyes scanning her neck, her lips, the places he used to know. "Well fed." Mila raised a brow. "That's none of your business, isn't it?" His tone turned sharp. "You forget. I know what it's like when you're falling. You start overcooking the meat. You forget sugar in the reduction. And now you think you're a damn psychic?" He leaned in. "I'm saying, she's got you off balance. That woman, Ekaterina, she's dangerous." Mila clenched her jaw. "So am I." But later, as she stirred a bitter orange glaze, she did forget the sugar, and she hated that he was right. That night, as the last table was finishing dessert, Ekaterina walked in. No warning, no phone call. She wore winter white, an impossibly tailored coat, cream silk gloves, silver heels. Her entrance was deliberate, regal, and she was not alone. At her side walked a tall, striking blonde, Sasha, Ekaterina's former protege and rumored ex-lover, a diplomat's daughter with a cold smile and eyes like Arctic glass. They sat at the same table, side by side, not touching, but too close. Mila's stomach twisted. "What's she doing here?" her Sue whispered. "Feeding me my own medicine," Mila muttered. She almost didn't go out, but she had to see, had to face it. She walked to their table, plate in hand, every step heavy with fire and pride. "The roasted pheasant with smoked hazelnut jus," she said coolly, prepared with restraint. Ekaterina met her eyes. Pity. Sasha smiled, dabbing her lip with her napkin. "This place is charming, Mila," she said in perfect, condescending Russian. "So intimate. No wonder she likes it here." Mila's eyes burned. Ekaterina's voice was velvet over steel. "I told Sasha I wanted her to taste something decadent." Mila's heart pounded. "Then maybe she should come to the kitchen," she said tightly. "That's where I bear everything." Ekaterina's gaze flashed. Her lips parted slightly. For the first time, she looked caught off guard. After dinner, Mila stormed into her office, slamming the door. A moment later, Ekaterina walked in. Silent, controlled. But her eyes were fire. "You're jealous," Mila said. "You dare say that after you let that boy put his hands on you?" "He didn't touch me. Not like you do." Ekaterina closed the door behind her, stepped forward. "But he wants you. I see it. And tonight you let him watch while I burned. You brought her. Because you needed to remember what's mine." Silence. Breathing. Heart slamming like fists. "I'm not your possession," Mila growled. "No," Ekaterina whispered. "You're my weakness." And then she kissed her. Hard. Brutal. Full of everything neither of them wanted to admit. Teeth clashed. Hands grabbed. Mila pushed Ekaterina against the door, their bodies writhing like flame and oil. "You don't get to show up and—" "Shut up," Ekaterina gasped, dragging Mila's panties down. They didn't make it to the couch. Mila rode her thigh like a wild thing, back arched, gasping, teeth buried in Ekaterina's shoulder. "Say it," Ekaterina demanded. "Say you're mine." "No." Her fingers sank deep, curling just right. Mila moaned, tried to fight it, failed. "Say it." "I'm yours," she whispered. Louder. "I'm yours." Later, Ekaterina stood by the door, buttoning her coat. "No more boys. No more games. If you want me," she paused. "Then want only me." Then she was gone. And Mila stood there, bare, wrecked, shivering. Not from the cold, but from the terrifying truth of what she was becoming. The private jet was waiting when Mila arrived at Vnukovo Airport. Ekaterina hadn't asked. She'd simply sent a message. "I'm going to Sochi for a few days. I want you with me. Pack light, and only silk." Mila hadn't replied. But she showed up. The jet was pristine. All white leather, champagne chilled in silver buckets, and the hum of quiet power. Ekaterina sat at the window seat, legs crossed, dark glasses on, a book unread in her lap. She didn't speak until the door hissed shut and the jet lifted into the frozen sky. "You came," she said without turning. "You knew I would." Ekaterina smiled faintly. That's the difference between confidence and control. The estate in Sochi sat on a cliff above the sea. wrapped in forest and mist. A modern chalet of sharp black lines and warm wood. Inside, a fireplace the size of a car, walls of glass overlooking the mountains, and a private spa downstairs carved into stone. "This is where I disappear," Ekaterina said as she led Mila inside. No cameras, no interruptions, just heat and shadow. "And me?" Mila asked. "You'll be whatever I make of you." That night, dinner was quiet. Mila had cooked seared scallops in fennel cream, truffle risotto, charred endives with sweet citrus. Ekaterina sipped her wine and watched her over the rim of her glass. "You cook like you fuck," she said softly, "with precision and craving. And you watch like you're always in control." "I am." Mila stood, walking slowly around the table until she stood behind Ekaterina's chair. "Then take control," she whispered. Ekaterina looked up. "You'll do exactly what I say?" "Yes." "Even if I ruin you?" "Especially then." The chalet's lower floor. It was warm, dimly lit, a chamber of soft leathers, mirrors, and deep rugs. The fireplace glowed low. A velvet-lined chest sat in the corner. Ekaterina opened it. Silk ropes, padded cuffs, feathered paddles, Wartenberg wheels, blindfolds, mouth bits, leather collars, some delicate, some commanding. Mila stood still, heart pounding. Ekaterina approached, cupping her face. "If you say stop, I stop. If you say red, everything ends. I won't say it." "You might." She undressed her slowly, reverently. Every silk button slipped free like a confession. The dress fell, the panties followed. Then the blindfold, soft black velvet, slid over Mila's eyes. The cuffs came next. Red leather, lined with lambskin. Mila's wrists were bound above her, tied to a smooth wood beam in the ceiling. Her body was exposed, trembling, not from fear but from hunger. Ekaterina circled her like a predator tasting restraint. She brushed feather-like kisses over Mila's breasts, her ribs, her inner thighs. Then came the cool edge of the Wartenberg wheel, metal spikes gliding down her spine, drawing gasps, arching her body into taut lines. "You're mine tonight," Ekaterina murmured. "My art, my hunger." She kissed her deeply, fingers gliding between Mila's legs, teasing but not giving. And then the collar, silk, deep red. Ekaterina buckled it around Mila's neck like it had always belonged there. "You are not less because you surrender," she whispered. "You are more." Hours passed. Ekaterina didn't just dominate, she read Mila's body. Her breath, her whimpers, the way her hips twitched when denied, the tears that spilled when she was held just at the edge of climax and then pulled back again. "You'll come when I let you," she said into Mila's neck. "Not before." Mila sobbed. Her thighs shook. Her nipples were red and tender. Her wrists strained against the cuffs. But she didn't say red. When Ekaterina finally slid her fingers deep inside her, pressing against every electric inch, Mila shattered. Her scream echoed off the walls, raw, helpless, triumphant. Ekaterina held her through the aftershocks, kissing her neck, her tears, her lips. Then she unbound her, carried her to bed, wrapped her in furs, and kissed her back to calm. Later, in the dark, Mila whispered, "I didn't think I could be this." "What?" Ekaterina asked softly. "Open. This scene." Ekaterina kissed her collarbone. "Power isn't in control, Mila. It's in choosing who you let touch your fire." The morning after their night of silk and flame, Mila woke to the quiet hiss of snow against glass. The Sochi villa was wrapped in fog, the sea below invisible. Silence clung to the air, thick and sacred. Ekaterina was already awake, seated at the edge of the bed in nothing but her robe. Her silver hair was loose, tumbling down her back. She stared out at the frost-tinged window, wine glass in hand, though it was barely past 9. She looked tired, not in the physical sense, but something underneath, the kind of tired that powerful women never admit to, the kind that leaks out in silence, in the slope of a shoulder, in the absence of command. "You drink early now?" Mila asked softly. Ekaterina didn't turn. "Only when I need to remember I'm still human." That shook Mila more than it should have. She got up slowly, pulling a wool throw around her naked body, and sat beside Ekaterina. "You don't have to keep the mask on with me." Ekaterina turned her head, eyes unreadable. "But I don't know who I am without it." Mila reached for the glass, set it down, and gently took Ekaterina's hand. "Then let me find her." That evening the fire crackled low, casting gold over the dark wooden floor. This time, Mila was the one who held the silk in her hands. She approached slowly, circling Ekaterina like a mirror of everything she had once endured. Her heartbeat thundered, but she wasn't afraid. She was curious. "Have you ever let anyone touch you without control?" Mila asked. "No." "Do you want to?" Ekaterina hesitated, then nodded, a slow, defiant nod. She undressed under Mila's gaze. Her robe slid off her shoulders, revealing skin kissed by firelight. She stood bare, proud and vulnerable, before the woman she'd once thought she could possess. Mila stepped forward, taking the red leather cuffs from the velvet chest. Gently, so gently, she bound Ekaterina's wrists, guiding her onto the chaise lounge. "Color?" Mila asked. "Green," Ekaterina whispered. Mila blindfolded her, kissed her throat. "You'll tell me if that changes?" "Yes." Mila took her time. She kissed her thighs, her stomach, the underside of her breasts, never where Ekaterina needed. She ran fingers lightly over her skin, tracing invisible promises. A single ice cube was placed on the older woman's navel. She shivered. Mila leaned down and sucked the cold from her skin with a warm tongue. Ekaterina moaned. "So responsive," Mila murmured. "So needy." The queen was unraveling, and Mila watched it happen. For the first time, she wasn't being consumed. She was the one setting the pace, holding the match to the fuse. And Ekaterina burned for her. Then Mila mounted her, not to dominate, not to punish, but to worship. She straddled Ekaterina's lap, grinding slowly, teasing herself against the older woman's stomach as her lips devoured her neck. "You're not untouchable anymore," Mila whispered. "I never was," Ekaterina gasped, arching into her. "I just needed someone brave enough to prove it." When Mila slid inside her, with 2 fingers, slow and deep, Ekaterina shattered, not from pain, not from release, but from letting go. Her moans weren't regal, they weren't polished, they were raw, desperate, honest. And Mila kissed her through it, kissed the woman beneath the empire, the fire beneath the frost. Afterward, Mila untied her, gently removed the blindfold, laid her head on her chest and listened to her heartbeat. "No one's ever touched me like that," Ekaterina whispered. "No one's ever let me touch them like you." For a long time, they lay tangled in silence, and for the first time since they met, the space between them wasn't tension, it was trust. Moscow was colder when they returned. Not just the weather, though the streets were lined with ice and gray despair, but the air. The city felt sharper, less forgiving, and in every shadow, something stirred. Back at Vulk, Mila noticed it immediately, a shift. Her staff whispered more. Her name was mentioned less with respect, more with curiosity. The journalists were circling, the bloggers had hints, the wrong people had seen too much. And at the center of it all, Sasha. It started with a photo. Mila standing outside the private jet, Ekaterina's coat draped over her shoulders, then another, her hand on Ekaterina's thigh at a private gallery opening, and then rumors. Chef Volkova has been buttering more than toast. From food to forbidden affairs, the billionaire and her pet cook. Vulk is no longer a kitchen, it's a bedroom. The headlines were cruel, but the whispers? Worse. Alexei appeared again, this time smug, sharp, and visibly wounded. You made your choice, he said bitterly. You picked power, not love. You don't get to lecture me about love, Mila snapped. You liked me only when I was smaller than you. He flinched. And she likes you only when you're hers. Sasha struck next. She made a public post, passive, elegant, venomous. There was a time when Ekaterina Orlova valued substance over appetite. Now, even empires fall to hunger. The tabloids pounced. Soon, whispers turned into threats. Ekaterina's board questioned her judgment. Investors pulled out of her hospitality branch. Her image, once bulletproof, now cracked with scandal. Mila saw it in her eyes, in the way Ekaterina clenched her jaw, in the nights she didn't sleep, in the glass she shattered against the wall of her office the day a reporter called her soft. They met again in the penthouse. Silence throbbed between them. The fire was cold. Ekaterina stood by the window, dressed in black, her reflection fractured in the glass. You've become my weakness, she said. Mila stepped in slowly. You said that before. Now I know what it costs. She turned, eyes burning. I had control of the board, of the empire, of myself, and then you. Mila swallowed. Are you saying this is my fault? No, Ekaterina said. I'm saying I let it happen because I wanted you more than I wanted safety. The words hung heavy in the air. Then tell me to leave, Mila said. I can't. Then stop blaming me for making you feel. Their kiss was brutal, not sweet, not slow. It was teeth and hunger and grief. Ekaterina pushed her back against the piano, fingers tugging Mila's blouse open. Mila shoved her coat off, biting her shoulder hard enough to bruise. It wasn't sex, it was war, and both of them wanted to lose. They ended up on the floor, Mila straddling her, breathless and wrecked, Ekaterina's blouse torn, her hair loose like wildfire. I'd burn everything for you, Ekaterina whispered. My name, my legacy. Then burn it, Mila said fiercely. But don't make me your excuse. Their foreheads pressed, hearts thudding. This wasn't seduction anymore. It was love, twisted, messy, bare. And far away, behind a closed screen, Sasha watched the leaked footage of the two of them tangled together at the gallery. Her lips curled into a cruel smile. Let the world see what Ekaterina becomes when she's in love, she whispered. Weak. It was on a Wednesday. Quiet. Overcast. The kind of gray Moscow day that pressed on your lungs like regret. The news hit first through a whisper, then a blast. A video leaked. Mila and Ekaterina at the Sochi estate, grainy, stolen security footage, not explicit but damning, their kiss against the window, Mila's dress falling open, Ekaterina's fingers trailing her thigh, private, intimate, devastating. Within hours, the footage spread like wildfire across blogs, gossip channels, and even international press. The billionaire and the chef. Power, submission, and scandal inside the velvet affair. Lesbian empire falls? Board members panicked. Contracts were frozen. Old enemies re-emerged. Ekaterina's legal counsel launched an internal probe. And behind the scenes, Sasha made her move. The full video is mine, she texted Ekaterina from a private number. Unless you want it on every screen in Moscow, you'll step down quietly from the board within 48 hours. Attached was a frame. Mila, bound and blindfolded, lips parted, lost in surrender. Ekaterina didn't breathe for a full minute. That night, Mila burst into the penthouse, her cheeks flushed with rage. "You didn't tell me about the video." "I was handling it." "Handling it?" Mila screamed. "You're being blackmailed." Ekaterina stood still, barefoot, in a silk robe that looked like armor now stripped of power. "It's under control." "Bullshit." She slammed her purse on the table. "I'm not ashamed of what we did," Mila said, voice breaking. "But you are. It's not about shame, it's about consequence. I built an empire on discretion, on fear. You cracked that open with your fucking fire." Mila stepped back, wounded. "Then say it," she said. "Say you regret touching me." Ekaterina looked away. "Say it." "I can't." "Then let me fight. Don't push me out to save your name." Ekaterina met her eyes, and for once, she didn't look invincible. She looked terrified. "If you stay, she'll destroy you too." "Let her try," Mila said fiercely. "Let her try and find out that fire doesn't burn me. I am the flame." They argued, cried, fought again, then clung to each other like survivors of a shipwreck, kissing as if it might be the last time. That night, Mila lay tangled in Ekaterina's arms, heart raw and aching. "You always take control," she whispered, "because it's the only thing that's ever kept me safe." "And if I asked you to let it go?" Mila murmured. "To let me protect you now?" Ekaterina was silent for a long moment, then whispered, "I'm scared." "Good," Mila said. "That means we're finally real." The next morning, Mila made her decision. She walked into the head office of Orlova International, in jeans, boots, and fire in her eyes, and faced the board. "You're worried about image? About scandal?" She laughed. "The real scandal is how easily you'd sacrifice a woman who built an empire, because she dared to fall in love." She slapped Sasha's printed message on the table. "Here's your blackmailer." Gasps. Sasha paled. "You want to protect the company? Then start by burning her." Ekaterina stepped in just as Mila finished. She had dressed in all black, no jewelry, no makeup. Only power. She took Mila's hand. In front of everyone. "You want to know the truth?" she said. "Yes, I love her. Yes, I touched her. And I would do it again. Every night for the rest of my life. If you think that makes me unfit to lead, then I was never the leader you deserved. But if you still believe in what I built, in what I am, then let me stand here, exactly as I am, woman, lover, unashamed." Silence. Then the chairman stood, and slowly nodded. Sasha was removed. The footage was buried. The media storm faded within a week. Ekaterina kept her seat. Mila kept her flame. But something had shifted between them. They were no longer predator and prey. They were equals, battle-forged, bound by trust and something deeper. That night, in the quiet of the penthouse, Ekaterina crawled into Mila's lap, kissed her softly, and whispered, "You saved me." Mila cupped her face. "No, I freed you." 1 year later, the snow fell softly in Moscow, gentler than it had the year before, as though even winter itself had mellowed under their heat. The new restaurant, Velvet, opened to a frenzy of press, envy, and fascination. A high-concept space, black marble floors, crimson walls, and gold-accented lighting like glowing kisses. A single golden V gleamed above the entrance, and at its heart, Mila Vulkova. No longer just a chef, now a culinary star, a bold co-owner, and the woman who had scandalized and transformed Moscow's high society. Ekaterina had stepped into a new role too. Still powerful, still elegant, but different. She no longer controlled from shadows. She stood beside Mila now, visible, human, in love. The press still speculated. The tabloids still gossiped. But neither woman cared anymore. They had weathered the fire and come out glowing. Inside Velvet, the kitchen pulsed with energy. Tonight was their first winter gala, invitation only, security tight, the elite crowd dripping in jewels and intentions. Mila plated the final course with quiet precision, her body moving with sensual, instinctive grace. She felt Ekaterina before she saw her. "You still command like a queen," Ekaterina murmured, stepping into the private kitchen in a deep burgundy satin gown that clung to her like sin. "You taught me well," Mila said, not turning. Ekaterina slid behind her, wrapping arms around her waist. "You know what I want more than dessert?" Mila teased, running a spoon through dark chocolate ganache. Ekaterina leaned in, lips grazing her neck. "You, on my desk, wearing nothing but power." Mila smiled, then closed the kitchen. The guests laughed downstairs. Champagne flowed. Jazz played softly. Upstairs, Mila lay across the desk, naked. Only a red silk ribbon tied at her throat. Ekaterina stood above her in heels, glass of wine in one hand, a leather riding crop in the other. "What are you now, Mila?" "Yours," Mila whispered. Ekaterina circled her like a panther. "No more fire left to fight? Only the kind that wants to burn under you." The crop dragged slowly down her inner thigh. "Say it again." "I'm yours." A tap, gentle, suggestive. Mila moaned. The desk shook. Heels clicked. Silk was torn. Mila came twice, once from Ekaterina's mouth, again from her fingers. When they finally collapsed, wrapped in furs on the leather couch, breathless and clinging, Mila looked into her eyes and whispered, "You were right. Power isn't control." "No?" "No," Mila smiled. "It's surrendering to someone who sees every part of you, and still stays." Weeks later, Tuscany. They escaped. No press, no board, no shadows. Just a villa, a sun-drenched terrace, bare skin, red wine, and each other. One morning, as Mila sipped coffee wrapped in nothing but Ekaterina's robe, the older woman reached into her pocket. "You once asked me if I regretted touching you." "I remember." Ekaterina held up a small velvet box. "Now I'm asking if you'd let me never stop." Mila opened it. Inside, a ring. Not flashy, not loud, just elegant, quiet, eternal. Mila smiled, heart thudding. "Only if I get to touch you forever too." They kissed. And somewhere in the quiet between lips, the fire they'd fought so long stopped burning them and finally warmed them.
Love powerful and compelling Sapphic stories? Don't forget to like, comment, follow, share, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell for more heartfelt, romantic, and empowering tales. Your next favorite love story is just a click away.